On the morning of July 4, 2022, the suburban town of Highland Park, Illinois, gathered for its annual Independence Day parade. A community united in celebration. At 10:14 a.m., that celebration turned into a war zone. Robert Eugene Crimo III, perched on a commercial rooftop, opened fire on the crowd below. He unleashed over 80 rounds from a high-powered rifle in just seconds. The attack left 7 people dead and 48 others injured. This tragedy shattered a community and set off a chain reaction of legal precedents, from a statewide assault weapons ban to the historic prosecution of the shooter's father. To understand this tragedy, we must look at the shooter and the digital trail he left behind. Robert Bobby Crimo III was born in September 2000. He grew up in Highwood, adjacent to Highland Park. His family was relatively well known. His father, Robert Crimo Jr., was a local deli owner. His father had even run for mayor in 2019, positioning the family as active participants in the local community life. However, behind closed doors and online, Crimo III lived an isolated, highly troubled existence. Dropping out of high school, he pivoted to an online persona. He adopted the moniker Awake the Rapper, posting amateur hip-hop tracks and heavily stylized dark videos on platforms like YouTube and Spotify. His online presence was a chaotic mix of violent imagery, mass shooter ideation, and far-right aesthetics, living in a 4chan bubble. He resided in a digital world of nihilistic memes, anime, and dark fantasies, drifting further away from reality into a dangerous fixation. Chillingly, one of his self-made animated videos depicted a gunman being killed by police after a mass shooting, showing a long-term fixation on violence. Experts noted he wasn't tied to a single political movement, but rather lived in a self-constructed world of dark memes and violent ideation. Experts described his digital footprint as a bubble of nihilistic fantasies, where online subcultures replaced real-world social connections. This tragedy is heavily defined by the volume of warning signs that were flagged but ultimately slipped through the cracks of the system. In April 2019, Highland Park police respond to a call regarding Crimo III attempting suicide by machete. Mental health professionals handle the crisis. While professionals intervened and handled the immediate crisis, no arrests were made, and no long-term legal restrictions were placed on his actions. Just months later, in September 2019, a family member reports that Crimo III threatened to kill everyone in the household. Police responded and temporarily seized a collection of weapons from his room, including 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword. However, the family declines to file formal complaints, and police find no probable cause to make an arrest. The weapons were eventually returned to the father. Despite the suicide attempt and violent threats within the previous 8 months, Crimo III applies for an Illinois firearm owner's identification card. The reports from 2019 painted a picture of a household in crisis, with repeated law enforcement contact that failed to trigger permanent intervention. Because he was only 19, his father, Robert Crimo Jr., signed the parental consent form to sponsor his son's application for the FOID card. This signature was the critical link. Despite the local red flags, the state-level background check did not block the application. Between 2020 and 2021, now holding a valid FOID card, Crimo III legally purchases several firearms, including the semi-automatic rifle. Crimo III later confessed that he had planned the assault for years, originally aiming for the 2021 parade, which was cancelled due to the pandemic. On the morning of July 4, 2022, he used a fire escape to access the roof of a local business, overlooking the gathering parade crowd. Dressed in women's clothing and wearing makeup to hide his identity, he waited for the parade to reach his vantage point before opening fire. At 10:14 a.m., he fired over 80 rounds into the crowd. He then dropped his rifle, climbed down, and blended in with the fleeing, panicked crowd. A massive police manhunt was launched. He walked back to his mother's house, took her car, and drove north toward Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, he admitted to contemplating a second shooting at a holiday event in Madison before finally deciding to turn back. He was eventually captured 8 hours after the first shot was fired. The investigation that followed would lead to unprecedented legal action. The judicial and legislative responses to the Highland Park shooting set major national precedents, starting with the trial of the shooter's father. Lake County prosecutors argued that Robert Crimo Jr. acted with criminal recklessness by signing his son's gun application despite his history of threats. This case established a powerful legal blueprint for holding parents accountable for enabling violent behavior through legal firearm sponsorship. Crimo Jr. pleaded guilty to 7 misdemeanor counts, receiving jail time and probation. the first major precedent of its kind in this context. Crimo III's courtroom behaviour was erratic. He briefly fired his public defenders to represent himself before eventually deciding to plead guilty. To avoid a grueling trial, he pleaded guilty to all 117 counts on the day his trial was scheduled to begin in March of 2025. Judge Victoria Rossetti addressed the survivors, describing Crimo III as a coward before handing down a historic sentence. Crimo III's brief attempt to represent himself added another layer of unpredictability to a case already marked by sudden shifts in legal strategy. He was sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring he will spend the rest of his life in prison. During the sentencing, survivors shared harrowing accounts of the attack, their words echoing through a courtroom filled with both grief and resolve. The additional 2,400 years represents the 48 attempted murder charges served concurrently, a clear message of judicial weight. We remember the lives taken. Catherine Goldstein, a 64-year-old mother of 2, known for her kindness and love for her family. Jacqueline Sundheim, 63, a beloved teacher and community leader whose impact on her students will never be forgotten. Stephen Strauss, 88, a dedicated father and grandfather who lived a long, full life before it was tragically cut short. Nicolas Toledo Zaragoza, 78, a visiting grandfather from Mexico who was the heart and soul of his large, loving family. Eduardo Uvaldo, 69, a devoted husband and father whose presence brought warmth to everyone he met. Kevin and Irina McCarthy, young parents who were killed together, leaving behind their toddler son who was found at the scene. We also honour the 48 others injured that day, whose lives were forever changed by the events of the Highland Park Parade. The massacre became a catalyst for legislative change, leading to the immediate passage of the Protect Illinois Communities Act. The law banned the sale and manufacture of most semi-automatic rifles and high-capacity magazines throughout the state of Illinois. Despite fierce legal pushback, the ban remained in place after review by the Illinois and U.S. Supreme Courts, setting a national precedent. The judicial and legislative outcomes of this tragedy have shown a path toward accountability, reform, and the protection of communities. The resilience shown by the people of Highland Park is a testament to the power of community in the face of unimaginable loss. The trial of Robert Crimo Jr. serves as a stark reminder that parental responsibility is now a critical frontier in the legal pursuit of public safety. Survivors continue to share their stories, advocating for a future where such tragedies are prevented through collective vigilance. 2 years later, the scars remain, but the community has transformed its grief into a powerful force for legislative and social change. The legal precedents set here remind us that accountability extends beyond the individual, reaching into the systems and families that support them. Under the banner of Highland Park Strong, residents have found strength in each other, ensuring that their collective voice is never silenced. As the years pass, the memory of July 4th remains a somber reminder of the work that remains to be done in building safer communities. The legislative reforms born from this tragedy now stand as a legacy for those who were lost, offering a blueprint for other states to follow. Today, Highland Park continues its journey of healing, proving that a community's resilience is stronger than the darkness that tried to shatter it. We close with a moment of silence for the victims and survivors, and for the hope that such a tragedy never strikes another community again.